Welcome to TradeTheMBA.com. This is John. This report is for the 17th of October, and again, a relatively modest day, but the continuation is still higher. We're still seeing rising shakeout. We're still in what I would still consider a weak position from an ES standpoint, though we had the reset of the short-term buyers. That's enough to keep things elevated where they are. Short interest is still strong enough that you could force an additional rally. Every time we go into this sideways mode, shorts seem to increase once they get back over the 0 point here. And it's proved problematic for them because shorting into a growing economy sometimes can be tough, despite whether you think the valuations are excessive or not. And the NQ, we talked about it would outperform where the S&P was simply because it had been behind. And it's making new highs as well, and a much better looking shakeout, as well as DOC, simply because we're not seeing the overbought status that you have in the ES. The Euro still staying well in the elevated category, even its weakness, though it had a reset of a buy signal back over here before starting to express some weakness with because the short-term buyers just thrust it to the peak. Usually those come back to fill in, but still, this is way outside of our range. I mean, you'd have to be all the way back down in the 115.5 range to be back, and that's still a good, decent percentage over it. I mean, anytime you're 10% over the range, it just helps the S&P, so no objection there. Bonds holding up just fine. Strange place to be. It could be that some people think that maybe, Yellen doesn't do anything with rates. Be surprising given that they've been ahead of the curve when it comes to inflation. Now all of a sudden they're going to be stopping them behind. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would prefer that they didn't do anything with them, but that hasn't stopped them in the past from being a little excessive in their aggressive nature. And oil, right back up at the peaks, exactly what we expected to see from it. And even an ongoing with the cyan below red, you'll see it's still going to keep it elevated and complete reset with the shakeout. So it's a nice run back up. Got a little overbought, so probably going to see that fill back in, though you're already closed near the lows after the gap up higher. ABM values, we can go ahead and list them right there. It is pretty tight range. Gold has been doing modest. I wouldn't call this great. A nice buy signal that came in. While it's popping up, it's not ready to explode yet until you see some indication that there's going to be some kind of effect of inflation related to what we're seeing. And you're not going to get official reports on it because this is just not the way they report true costs of inflation, because they exclude the most important things, which tend to be volatile, but so what? They still represent what people are paying for things. And it's always been problematic for relying on the data. Turning to the 5K chart, there was the action. Took us all the way up to the peaks. We got too far, retraced, came back with the rising lows to the 0 point, just slightly above it, and then came up with a new set of dips. We didn't quite get we're not getting these solid dips in some cases, simply because it's been such a soft reading. So this was just a slow ebb up after the attempted dip of the orange below red here, the dip below the green and everything. It's just not complete from my standpoint. The most encouraging part was the lows having been established here with the dip below the red line, and then the lower lows on higher extreme histogram, and of course the shakeout took off and crossed over into the green and moved above the 50%, which just brought it right back up to the highs. So all in all, it's kind of slow, boring, but I think we're going to start to get some pickup here because some things have to move, particularly as we move into the last 2 weeks of the month. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll see if we can get some excitement out of it. Still dealing with why my client access layer for TradeStation still seems to have some issues. Been in contact with them. wasting a lot of time with that kind of stuff. So it is what it is. As always, though, trade well. We'll talk to you later.